Hello, everyone. God bless you. Have you ever prayed for clarity and instead of giving you words, God started showing you people? You thought they were for you. You thought they had your back. But then the season shifted and so did their loyalty. It wasn't that you changed. It wasn't that you did something wrong. It's just that when you grow, when you start stepping into the person God created you to be, the people who were only there for what they could take from you start falling away. And I know that hurts. I know that realization cuts deep because you were real with them. You were loyal. You showed up. You defended them when others talked about them. You prayed for them, supported them, and believed in them. And yet the moment you started elevating, they got distant. The moment you stopped being available for their drama, their gossip, their negativity, suddenly you were the problem. It's funny how people love you when you're struggling, but can't stand to see you winning. But let me tell you something. God didn't let you lose them. He let you see them because you were loving the version of them they wanted you to see, not who they really were. And God couldn't let you go higher while being connected to people who were pulling you down behind your back. So he started revealing, he started exposing, he let you overhear that conversation. He let you feel that shift in energy. He let you notice how they clapped a little less when you succeeded. That wasn't a coincidence, that was clarity. See, we pray for protection and we expect God to build walls around us, but sometimes his protection looks like him removing people from our lives. Sometimes his protection feels like heartbreak, like confusion, like loneliness. But the truth is, he's not taking away anything you need. He's making room for what you deserve. I know you're wondering why they switched up, why they betrayed you, why they chose to leave. But I need you to stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, what is God showing me? Because some of you are mourning the loss of people who were never real to begin with. You're grieving a connection that wasn't built on love, but on convenience. And if God hadn't exposed them, you would still be investing in a relationship that was silently draining you. So hear me when I say this. Stop chasing after what God has removed. Stop trying to make people stay who were never meant to go where God is taking you. You keep trying to resurrect relationships that God has already laid to rest. Let them go, let them walk. Let them talk, let them do whatever they need to do over there, because where God is leading you, only the real ones can follow. This isn't rejection, it's redirection. This isn't a loss, it's a lesson. And when God removes, he also replaces. You're about to see why those fake people had to go. Because what's coming next, oh, it's so much better. God allows these people in your life not to destroy you, but to teach you, to strengthen your discernment, to sharpen your ability to recognize who is truly for you and who is simply using you. Some of the biggest lessons you'll ever learn won't come from your victories, but from the betrayals you never saw coming. Because pain has a way of revealing truth. Some of the people you once trusted with everything were only around because they needed something from you. And when they could no longer benefit, they left. That wasn't your fault. That wasn't a reflection of your worth. That was a reflection of their character. It hurts to realize that not everyone who smiles in your face is rooting for you. It hurts to know that the people you supported, defended, and poured into were secretly wishing for your downfall. But what if I told you that their betrayal was actually your blessing? What if I told you that God exposed them because he didn't want them sitting at the table he's preparing for you? See, some people can't handle your destiny. Some people don't have the integrity to walk with you into the next season. And if God hadn't allowed them to show their true colors, you would have kept carrying them into places they were never meant to go. So instead of being bitter, be grateful. Instead of asking why they left, thank God that he revealed. Instead of holding on to the pain, embrace the lesson. Because now you see, now you know. And the next time someone comes into your life, you'll recognize the difference between real and fake, between loyalty and convenience, between God-sent and self-serving. This wasn't a loss. This was preparation. And what's ahead of you is too great to waste time crying over people who were never real to begin with. Rejection is protection. It doesn't feel like it in the moment. It feels like pain. It feels like confusion. It feels like loss. But what if I told you that every person who walked away, every betrayal, every moment where you felt abandoned was actually God protecting you from something you couldn't see? What if I told you that the very thing you thought was breaking you was actually setting you free? See, we don't always recognize when we're holding on to things that are holding us back. We get comfortable with people, attached to relationships, and used to certain dynamics, even when they're not healthy for us. And sometimes God has to allow rejection to step in because we wouldn't let go on our own. You were praying for clarity, but God gave you closure. You were asking for peace, and He removed the very thing that was disturbing your spirit. You wanted a sign, and He showed you exactly who they were, but instead of trusting Him, you started questioning yourself. You keep wondering what you did wrong. You keep replaying conversations in your head, searching for the moment everything changed. You keep trying to make sense of why they switched up, why they ghosted you, why they stopped answering your calls. But let me tell you something. You didn't lose them. They lost you. They lost access to your love, your loyalty, your support. They lost someone who was real, someone who genuinely cared. And that's not your burden to carry. Rejection is not a punishment. It's a redirection. It's God saying, I have better for you. It's Him stepping in and removing the people who would have betrayed you later, who would have sabotaged your purpose, who would have distracted you from the greatness He placed inside of you. Because let's be real, some of the people you were holding on to were never clapping for you. They were tolerating you. They were waiting for you to fail. And if God had allowed them to stay, they would have drained you, discouraged you, and delayed your destiny. So instead of mourning what walked away, start praising God for what stayed. Praise Him for the real ones, for the genuine relationships, for the peace that comes when you stop forcing connections that were never meant to last. Because what you thought was a loss was actually an answered prayer. You didn't see it at first because you were too busy trying to make them stay. You were trying to hold on to something that was already breaking. But now you see it for what it really was. God isn't in the business of taking away what you need. He removes what's blocking what you've been praying for. He clears space for the right people, the right opportunities, the right relationships. So trust Him. Stop chasing after those who left. Stop trying to convince people to see your worth. The right ones will recognize it. And when they do, you'll finally understand why God had to let the wrong ones go. Growth brings exposure. You don't have to go searching for the truth about people. Just start growing, and their real intentions will reveal themselves. When you were struggling, they had no problem standing next to you. When you were doubting yourself, they were more than happy to give advice. But the moment you started leveling up, the moment you started moving differently, watch how quickly the energy shifts. Some people were comfortable when you were stuck. They loved having access to you when you needed them, but the moment you no longer relied on their approval, they felt threatened. That's because some relationships are built on control, not love. As long as you were predictable, they felt secure. As long as you stayed at their level, they had no issue with you. But the moment you started growing beyond the limits they placed on you, suddenly their smiles felt forced. Suddenly they were making little side comments about how you've changed. Suddenly the support they once gave you started feeling like obligation rather than genuine care. And you feel it, you notice the difference. But part of you doesn't want to accept it because you never expected them to be the ones to fall back. But let me tell you something. Growth exposes, it separates, it refines. You are not doing something wrong by evolving. You are not being prideful by stepping into your purpose. And you are not obligated to shrink just to make insecure people feel comfortable around you. The reality is, when God starts elevating you, He will expose who was truly for you and who was only around because of convenience. He will show you who was connected to your calling and who was only connected to their comfort in having access to you. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can either lower yourself to make them feel better, or you can stand firm in the fact that you didn't leave them behind. They chose not to grow with you. See, real friends, real supporters, real family don't feel intimidated by your success. They celebrate it. They push you further. They show up for you even when it's not about them. But the ones who start pulling away, throwing shade, and acting different, those are the ones who are only comfortable with you as long as you weren't a threat to their own insecurities. So stop trying to figure out why they changed. They didn't change. You just started seeing them clearly. And that's what growth does. It doesn't just bring blessings, it brings revelation. It shows you who was truly for you and who was just around because you hadn't yet stepped into your full potential. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them distance themselves. Let them talk. Because the people who are meant to walk with you won't be intimidated by your growth. They'll grow with you. And those are the only ones worth keeping around. Your destiny doesn't depend on them. It never did. The people who walked away, the ones who turned their backs, the ones who couldn't handle your growth, they were never part of God's final plan for your life. You thought you needed them. You thought they were supposed to go with you all the way. You thought their support, their validation, and their presence were necessary for your success. But God is showing you now that what He has for you was never tied to them. It hurts when people leave, especially the ones you believed in, the ones you fought for, the ones you poured into. But sometimes God allows people to exit your life because He knows they would only limit you if they stayed. You're holding on to memories, but God sees their motives. You're remembering the good times, but God saw the conversations behind your back. You're wondering why they didn't fight to keep you in their life, but God is showing you that their absence is a gift. See, we get so attached to the idea that we need certain people in order to succeed. We think if they just stayed, if they just believed in me, if they just supported me, then maybe things would be easier. But God never needed their permission to bless you. He never needed their support to take you higher. He never needed their approval to open doors for you. If they left, then that means they were never assigned to your destiny. Some people were only meant to be with you for a season. They played their role, they served their purpose, and now their time is up. You keep trying to drag them into a future they were never meant to be a part of. You keep trying to convince them to see your worth, but the truth is, if they were meant to be in your life, they would still be here. No one who truly values you, who truly loves you, who is truly assigned to your journey will ever leave because of your growth. God is teaching you something in this season. He's showing you that your destiny is not dependent on people, it's dependent on Him. The blessings coming your way are coming because of His hand, not because of anyone else's approval. The doors opening for you are opening because of your faith, not because of their connections. The next chapter of your life is being written by God, and guess what? Some people don't belong in it. So stop waiting for them to come back. Stop believing that your success is tied to their presence. Stop looking for confirmation from people who were never meant to validate your journey. What's ahead of you is too big, too powerful, too divine to be limited by people who couldn't even recognize the greatness inside of you. Let them go. Your destiny is waiting, and it has nothing to do with them. Now you see, now you understand why things had to happen the way they did. The people who walked away, the ones who switched up, the ones who couldn't handle your growth, it wasn't a loss, it was a lesson. God didn't take them from you, He revealed them to you. He answered the prayers you didn't even know you were praying. He saw what you couldn't see. He heard what you didn't hear. And instead of letting them continue to sit at your table while secretly doubting, using, or resenting you, He removed them. This wasn't rejection. This was protection. This wasn't about them leaving. This was about God making room. Because the truth is, not everyone is meant to go where He's taking you. Some people were only there for the version of you that served them. They weren't invested in your future, only in what they could gain from your presence. And now, with them gone, you can move freely into what God has for you.